Use live. Let's just make sure we're all good here. Okay, so I don't have anything on my feed here. There's a couple of people joining us. We just got to check this, guys. We're just doing if anyone's watching at the moment, we've got a couple of people joining us. We're just trying to make sure the feed is coming up through our phones and that, so we can take a few questions and stuff like that as well. So just bear with us while we work this one out. If we can get it. Is it live on any of your stuff there, Kate?
Yeah, it's live on my Facebook. Mm-hmm. I'm just checking on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'll check yours too. Oh, look, my last search was yours.
Just bear with us, guys, if you're just joining us. I know there's more people joining us here. We're just working this out. We've got complete different equipment here, because normally when I do the live stuff, I'm just using my phone and some headphones, which obviously isn't going to work now that we've got Kate here as well. We need to be able to pick up that audio. So just bear with us. We're just trying to bring this up on my channel so we can see that it's
there you through. Are. This is your channel.
Okay. All right. So why can't I find it on mine here? No, it's on as you've got it and it's coming through.
It's on you too.
Yeah, see, I go into my account here. I can't quite. Okay.
I think because it's streaming from my side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll just have to leave it off my phone and we'll just go off yours there. So, guys, look, welcome to a special live stream here. I'm very happy to obviously have Lady Liberty here in Queensland, and we'll hand over the mic to her shortly. So we're going to talk about firearms. We're going to talk about some of the gun laws, yes, because obviously where she has just come from, being WA, there's a lot that has happened and is still going on over there. A lot of our WA viewers will, see that. Can someone just tell us too, please, is our audio okay? Can you hear me okay? Just give us a thumbs up on my channel there in the live chat that you can hear us. And we'll just make sure that the audio is going okay here as well. So we're going to have pretty much sunset here on the farm, and we've got a few lights out here, guys, so it should be right going into a little bit more darkness as we chat, and, we can go from there. So first of all, as I say, welcome, to everyone who's following us, and thank you very much for tuning in. And the first things first is, as a Queenslander, I've introduced Kate to Great Northern, in particular Super Crisp, and she's a big fan. So we're already turning her into a Queenslander. So I'll hand the mic over to her now, and just once again, thank you very much for making the trip here, and great to have you on board.
Thank you, Ozzy. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I am Kate Fantinel, or Lady Liberty. I've been involved in the firearms industry for over 15 years now. I worked at the SSAA in the national office for 5 years as the lobbyist and media spokesperson. I then went and worked for former Senator David Leyonhjelm from the Libertarian Party, who is the most pro-gun senator this country has ever had. It was an honour to work for him, and it was such a shame when he lost his seat, and we are now feeling the effects of that now. After that, I went to Western Australia in February 2020 to work for Aaron Stonehouse, who was a Libertarian in the upper house. And then he lost his seat in a big red wave in 2021, which saw Labor achieve absolute majority in that state. And now we are seeing what's happening there, especially with guns. I've then been doing a few different things over the last year. I did run as the lead Senate candidate for Western Australia in 2022 for the Libertarian Party on a purely pro-gun platform, Give Gun Owners a Fair Go. Some of you might have seen the pictures of me at Police Minister Paul Papalia's office with my sign. He has blocked me on social media, so it didn't go down too well with him. And now we are now seeing in Western Australia what they've done and what their plan was. So love my guns, love my sport, grew up shooting with my dad on a farm in South Australia. I'm disgusted at the way politicians treat shooters. And I've come up to Queensland because there's an election here in October, and I believe that Queensland is the last beacon of hope where we can hold the line. There are parties here and people elected and organisations that have been doing some fantastic work to hold the line and have some wins here too. So I'm honoured to be here. I'm sad that I've left WA, but it's okay. I'll be back. There's an election in March next year, and I'll definitely be in the trenches there fighting against what's happening there. But for now, all eyes turn to Queensland, and that's why I'm here with my dear friend Aussie Review, who has been absolute wonderful host to me. He's really looked after me this weekend. He's got me on the beers, but that's okay. We meant to go to a winery today, but we've been too busy, and now we're doing this live stream. So thank you so much for having me, Aussie. Sorry.
Sorry, guys, we got a little bit of a dodgy mic here with it falling out.
All the trouble.
But no, you're welcome. And guys, as we say, this is about strengthening the voice here in Queensland for firearm rights. And it's something that I've been working on, I guess, I hate to use the term, but behind the scenes, because how many organisations use that term? I hate using it, but I legitimately have been working on this for a little bit of time and trying to organise the dates and everything for Kate to be here, and also to meet with organisations, like the Shooters Union and just other organisations from different clubs and friends that I've got in the shooting world, and just try to get a little bit more advocacy. And I think especially from like a woman's point of view, like we all know that a lot of the time, I know personally from going in and speaking with politicians, as a guy, like I can go and I can speak to female politicians and some will listen, some entertain it and that, but it doesn't have the same impact as when another woman goes in and speaks to another woman. It doesn't matter. You can argue either way. I'm not here to argue about that. All I'm saying is it has a different message and it's received differently to when guys go in there and start talking about shooting. So I think it's important, very much so with female politicians, to see a female face on that gun front, to go, oh, well, this person, she's just a petite girl. She likes her shooting. She's no danger to anyone, that sort of thing. Like sometimes when guys can go in with a bit of ego and things like that, the message can get a little bit construed. So, so thank you for that. I appreciate that. And we've got a lot of plans, moving forward. But before we get into real serious stuff, because we want to talk about, the more lighter side of things as well. We don't want it all crazy and serious about politics, although we will get into that, guys, is talking about, on a private note, I'd like to know, what got you into shooting? I know you said, your father and things like that. But what was the tipping point, I guess, where you got into it and you went, okay, this is just more than just a little bit of fun with Dad when you're a child, to I want to be able to pursue this. And what sort of firearms did you get into? What sort of firearms do you love shooting now? What's your passion? What side of shooting? Because there's so many different areas of shooting, and I'd love to share that with my viewers who are tuning into this. So we'll get you this hole at the bottom here so this doesn't fall out, and we should be good.
Thank you. It's taken a battering from all my travelling. So I grew up in the country with my dad, going out on my grandma's farm, helping him shoot little rabbits for 22. And it's also part of my culture because I have an Italian background, and for us that's part of growing up. And also sourcing your own food. That was a big thing that my dad taught me. Self-sustainability. That's why we hunt. We also hunt to protect our properties, protecting my grandmother's farm from feral pests so that she could make a living. So for me, firearms were a natural part of my life and my childhood, and I was taught responsible firearms handling from a young age. So that is something that I've truly valued. And then as I got older, moved to Adelaide, went to uni, studied journalism, public relations, and I've kind of lost that side of me because, you're going out, you have new experiences, new people, you're not in the country anymore. And then it was when I went back to and went and worked for SSAA that I found that passion again. And I was so excited when the job came up, and I sent the ad to my dad, and he was like, you have to do this because I love talking about guns with him. He's got quite a few. In fact, that's one of the reasons I left WA, is because if something happened to my dad, and with the gun limits on people, I wouldn't be able to inherit quite a number of firearms that have family meaning to me. And that's something that this government, I'm sorry, I'm digressing into politics already, but they've put my family in a position where I've really had to look at my life, and my dad's getting older, and he's my hero. So I didn't want to be in a situation where I would have to get rid of things that just mean so much to me because of the state telling me that I can only own up to 5. So, but when I was working with WSAA, I got involved in pistol shooting. I joined Franklin Street Marksman and just shot in a 20-meter range and just loved it. Bought my first Browning Buckmark 22 when I was 26. I still have that little gun. My dad's looking after it for me at the moment. I'll get it up in Queensland for sure. But I'll shoot anything. So I've been to America a number of times. I love that country so much. I love that they were founded on libertarian principles and liberty. That's what they stand for. So I've been to Vegas, shot, all sorts of things, AK-47s, Israeli machine guns, 50 cal, like give me anything and I'll try it. And something that I try to do in my work is talk to a lot of females. I'm not trying to play the gender card, but a lot of women find coming into the sport can be intimidating because it's quite a male-dominated area. So just in making us safe space, to use the left term, but making it inclusive. And so going into a gun shop for the first time as a woman can be quite intimidating, even seeing a gun. And because of Australia and how it's been, and the propaganda from governments, for successive governments telling Australians that guns are bad, guns are evil, bad people have guns. We're at this point now in society where people believe it. So it's trying to get people to try the sport for themselves and find out, and just creating areas where people can have that chance, because the government has made it so hard. They don't want kids to learn how to shoot in school. When I ran for the Senate, one of my policies was people should be taught what to do if they find a gun. And then it came out in the press, she wants all kids to have guns at school to be in. But when you think about it, people should know, as personal responsibility and responsible to other people, you should know how to handle a firearm safely and make sure it's not loaded. That is a critical skill, and governments have made it hard for people to learn that skill. So that's where I come in, and I've tried to educate people about that. The other thing I will say is 96, I was old enough to remember my dad being treated like a criminal. He's a teacher. He's never broken a law in his life, perhaps one speeding fine. And for him to be treated like that by the state and having to hand back firearms when he did nothing wrong, the majority of people, except for the one person who did that heinous crime in Tassie, seeing that really affected me and has stayed with me. And that's where I get the passion from, justice. This was not fair what they did then. It's not fair what they're doing now in WA and other states. So that's kind of what gets me up every day, the love of the sport and the culture of hunting and the tradition and the skill that should be passed down, but also the fact that these laws are not fair, and we, the people, should be the ones telling the government how we want our societies to be run, and disarming people for doing nothing wrong. No. Where now is the time to hold the line. We didn't hold it back in 96, and I'd love to get your thoughts on that, Ozzy, because you're a bit older than me, so you...
Not as old as Graham Park.
Not as old as Graham Park. Hi, Graham. So that's basically why I love my sport. I love my guns, and I'll do anything I can for Australians to have that skill to be able to pass down to future Australians.
Okay, that's great. Just to add to that, a lot of my viewers have heard me speak about this before, but, at that time, the one thing that I lost was my Ruger 1022. It was a stainless one, and it had a walnut stock. So it wasn't all synthetic. It was just this walnut stock. And it was just my absolute pride and joy. And how I got it at the time, I'd worked fairly hard. I'd had it for a few years. And I'm sure there's a lot of viewers who will, associate with this. And I worked hard. I was mowing lawns and all sorts of things to get spare money to be able to buy it, and save up the money as you do when you're a lot younger. And when I had to get rid of that, it just felt you feel violated, you just felt like something that you had worked for that was yours was just taken. And in my view, it wasn't a buyback. It was because my rifle wasn't for sale. So it's not a buyback. It's stealing my property. You know, and I was quite offended with that. And that was sort of the kickoff to getting a little bit of passion in it, like similar to yourself. And then, you know, when you touched on the media, you know, construing the message about teaching youngsters about firearm safety, that, oh, you want everyone to have guns who's a child. My first taste of the media and their ways was when all the Adler debacle, and I say that because it was a debacle in my view, with lever action shotguns. You know, they got my footage, they stole it, put their logo all over it, took my logo off it, sped it up, made it look like it was a lot faster than what it was. And that's why I laugh when people on my channel go, slow down your shooting, really? Or if I shoot slow, the media will speed it up, like to suit their agenda. It doesn't matter what you do. These people are ruthless and they won't stop. So that comes back to, you know, like what I say about people have to be very much involved. They have to get involved. And the big thing, and we'll turn this towards WA in particular now, talk about that. And guys, we will get to some questions after this too. So don't think we're just going to waffle on. We want to talk about WA, but then we want to have a read through some of your questions and that as well. So, you know, please stay with us here. So, yeah, I want to talk about WA, and because you were at the coalface, so to speak, there's a lot of us that were, you know, thousands of Ks away here on the East Coast. So, you know, like we'd like to know what happened over in the West exactly and what it was like there. But I will just add this before handing over to you, Kate, is as I've said to people numerous times, because I'm old enough and I've dealt with the antis for many, many years, it's always something reasonable to get the law passed, or the majority of shooters on side to go, oh, that doesn't seem too unreasonable. But then when stuff is passed, like Canada recently with their bans, the list was so much more exhaustive than what was originally proposed. And that is the biggest problem. It's never what they say they want, it's always more. You know, like you look at 1996, for example. You know, the Port Arthur tragedy was that Martin Bryant running around with a 1022. Well, no, from everything I've read, it wasn't. I think there was an SLR and there was an AR-15 variant. So, you know, why take like pump shotguns? Why take semi-auto 22s that we use for culling rabbits? You know, that sort of thing. So anyhow, I won't waffle on. I'll hand over to you to give us a rundown of what actually transpired in WA and how it came about. And if you are happy to talk about it, what your view is on the reaction of organisations over there, and just let it out. Tell us exactly what you think.
I will. So I was working for Aaron Stonehouse, who was the upper house Libertarian member prior to the last state election in 2021. And when I arrived in February 2020, WA has the oldest firearm act in the country. After 96, they've just done piecemeal approach through regulation rather than redoing the whole act. So when I was in the office, I said, we need to push for firearms reform while we have a crossband that included shooters and fishers, that included pro-gun parties like Libertarian and other people who were supportive. We need to push for it now, because I was seeing the writing on the wall when COVID hit and everything was happening, and WA closed the border for 2.5 years, mind you. That last election was a vote on the border. Keep the border closed. That's how Labor got the absolute majority. They didn't go to the election on a platform of guns. They didn't go to election on the platform of property rights for farmers. None of that was mentioned at all. So what happened, and Labor has control of both houses. There's only 2 Liberal members in the lower house, and the leader recently voted in favour of the new gun law. So just putting that out there now. I know 1 member crossed the floor on it, but just saying. And then this is what we've got. So in March 2022, the front page of the West Australian newspaper came out, and a lot of people have already heard this story, but I'll just go over it for those who don't know. And on that front page was a map, and that map had colour-coded dots on the map of people's home addresses who were firearm owners, and they even color-coded it by rifle, shotgun, and pistol. Now, this map was very quickly found by Shooters Union, to their credit, to be able to be reverse engineered, and you could actually pinpoint on the map where people lived. Now, the whole point of doing that was public safety is at risk. We've got too many guns in the streets. We're going to reform gun laws in this WA Labor Party government. People were horrified. People were terrified. People who were working at the mines were calling their wives saying, is everything okay? People were legitimately scared that their homes were going to get broken into because they had just published a shopping list for criminals where they could go and steal guns. A couple of weeks after that, a person's house got broken into. He was set on fire and his guns were stolen. So when these governments talk about public safety, you can't even take them seriously. They just put public safety at risk by publishing, it's called doxing, the addresses of us. And you're turning around and say, we're taking your guns away to keep the community safe? Like the gall, the absolute gall of these people. So that was March 2022. There was a federal election in May. I had been pre-selected as the lead candidate for the Libertarian Party, whom David Limehelm used to work for and whom I align with principally in terms of liberty and guns specifically, because it's a principled issue for me. So I decided on my own, without the support of the other lead candidates, to run on a platform of pro-guns. Now, that was quite hard at the time because it wasn't what they had their own freedom manifesto and things they wanted to run on, particularly the lockdowns and all of that, which I agreed with their views. But for me, I just thought, fuck, excuse my language, but we need to have someone from WA in a parliament somewhere in the Senate fighting for shooters, because this government, they have shown their cards already. They're going to go to the gutter and fight this in the gutter. So Aussie came out in support of me, which I'm so grateful for. I got about 30,000 votes. It was between me, the One Nation candidate, and the Labor Party to get the last seat in the Senate, and with preferences it went to Labor, so I was unlucky that time. The next thing they did, McGowan, who was the Premier at the time, Papalia, went up to an Air Force base, bought a 50 cal using taxpayers' money for a publicity stunt to say, we are now going to look at restricting very high-powered caliber firearms because we think they're going to be used to snipe at police. That was their exact words. Now, the people affected by that ban, returned servicemen who shoot long-range rifle on the weekend with their mates. They go to the range, they talk about their service experience. It's cathartic to them. I know this because they've reached out to me after that and shared how horrified and disgusted. And side note, Police Minister Paul Papalia is also the Returned Veterans Minister, and he also served in the Navy. He doesn't care about his own people. So that came out. There was the first gun confiscation since 96 and the 2002 handgun buyback, gun confiscation. So you saw servicemen, returned veterans who served their country disarmed of these firearms. And then Papalia comes out and suggested we should send these guns to the Ukraine to arm the Azov battalion, who are neo-Nazis, and fight against Russia. That's the attitude of this government. I'm not making this up. I've posted about it, written about it. You can source all of this. I have the sources. So then that happened. After that, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. He started a group of advisory council, didn't include any shooting organisation. It included the Wine Growers Association, who I'm sure have a lot to say on air rifles maybe, but he excluded the people who deserved a voice. And this is not just firearms in WA. This is the attitude of that government. They feel like they rule over the people. They treat that state like an oligarchy. They have people at the top with all the money, Twiggy Forrest, all their mates, and then the people on the ground get poorer. So shooters organisations over there, with SSAA leading the way, decided to form a group together, the Western Australian Firearms Community Alliance. I was at that first meeting. I was given an invitation because I used to work for the national office, and I attended, and they were all talking about we'll only meet with the minister together with a united front. The problem was you can't be united when you exclude other organisations, and I got up there and people on the day, I gave quite a spiel and just said this is the first problem, and the fight has been lost. Forget about even going to meetings with the government. Forget about writing letters to the Labor MPs who won't move. They run a very tight ship in Labor, I'll give them that. No one's going to cross the floor for you, especially on guns. The time to fight with the government is over. We need to get the community on side. So they're at least not going to go to the election on a campaign of fear of guns and vote for Labor again. Let's educate the community about how great our sport is. Let's put the billboards up. I am a shooter. I am a hunter. Let's turn this into a positive promotion for our sport. That was my suggestion. They didn't take that on board. I also offered to go and work for them because of my experience. They didn't want me. That's fine. They had it all under control. Fast forward now, and since then we've seen other things happen. We've seen limits on the number of firearms you can own. As I said before, up to five for hunters, up to 10 for competitive shooters. And people are already getting their PTAs rejected because it wasn't 5 or 10, it was up to, with a purpose of use for every single firearm. So they were never going to let you have 10 or even 5 to begin with. People are surprised that that's the case now. Then we've also had recently come out that they can use as part of the fit and proper person test someone's views, attitudes, or opinions as part of the judgment if you can own a firearm or not. So therefore, I don't think I would ever get a gun license in WA because of my views, attitudes, and opinions, which are obviously anti-Labor government. So they could use that against me. I'm too critical of the leaders. They are also looking at what they've included in the Act, mental ability, mental health checks, which I'll get Corey's opinion on in a minute, and also physical ability. So now we're talking about discrimination. You know, we're an all-ability sport, but they've included physical ability as part of that. They are just, this to me is a government ideologically opposed to civilians owning firearms. That's it. They don't want us to own them. They'll take them away. They're running a buyback gun confiscation scheme at the moment, and people have probably seen the table of prices based on not the market value, but how much the state believes it's worth. It's $600 for some guns. It's just outrageous. But this is the point that we've got to in Western Australia because people haven't traditionally voted on the issue of guns. People have voted on cost of living and other issues, and I get that. But you've got to think about the future of the country. Do you want a country where only the government, police, and military own guns and the skill from hunting and your culture and all of that is lost because of government? No, now is the time. We didn't hold the line in 96. Hold the line now. I've told shooters, do not hand one gun back to the state. Don't do it. Send them to a mate interstate. Give them to a gun dealer, whatever. Just do not give them to the state. So that's just an overview. I know there's a lot there, but there's a lot happening and there's a lot more to come, and it will come. I know people are saying, it's going to a review committee, these laws. It's not going to change. They ran that consultation. I wrote a submission. The act that has come out didn't include any changes at all. The audacity of these people running that state, the audacity. So that's a bit of a long-winded answer, but that's where we're at in Western Australia. These laws will pass. You will be restricted on your guns. They're making the fit and proper person test so hard at trying to deter as many people as possible. Because who wants to hand over the medical information to the state for the police to look at? The police can go and check with your GP, your treatment plan, and then the police get to be the ones who say, well, we don't think you're treating this issue seriously. The police, since when were they doctors? The other thing that they can do as well, which terrifies me, is have your mental health records on a database that can be hacked. Like, they're all moving it to digital. Now, we've seen governments cannot be trusted with sensitive data. This is the world we're living in. But they're putting it all onto digital with the firearms registry as well. So it goes on and on and on. And I'm sad that I left that state because I really do feel like I've let people down by not being there in the trenches. But I've come up to put my passion where I feel like I could be most useful at this point in time. But I'm always going to be keeping an eye out, and there is an election next year. So I'll do anything I can to help shooters. And I'm so sorry that the state has treated us like this. I am so sorry because people have been crying. I've heard so many stories, and it breaks my heart that the state is treating us like this. So.
Yeah, well, that's certainly eye-opener. I mean, if you're sitting at home and you're looking at this live feed and you hear that and you put yourself in that position and think about your government in New South Wales or Victoria or Queensland, Tasmania, South Australia, ACT, Northern Territory doing something like that. And I guarantee, this is just my view, I've got no evidence of it, but I guarantee that it's coming here for Queensland. It will be. There's no way in hell that they sit by. This is what I laugh about with these sort of restrictions, how these governments work here in Australia. Like, for example, in New South Wales, you can have a 50 BMG, but in Queensland, you can't. So you'll say here to like weapons licensing or politicians, well, we should be able to have 50 cal BMGs here. Oh, no, they're a separate state. They do what they want. However, if it's a restriction, oh, no, they're doing that. We need to have a look at that. Like, it's just such a contradiction. I've further to what you're saying there, Kate, I've had people message me recently from WA. I've got quite a few people who have kept me up to date with what's going on. Richard, if you're watching this, a farmer in WA, I speak with Richard regularly, and he keeps me up to date with what's going on from a primary production point of view, just as well as just general shooting. Really good bloke. Been watching the channel for many years. So thank you, Rich. I know that you'd probably be watching this, or you'd definitely catch it with the time difference. But, he sent me a picture there of this questionnaire that's being sent to WA shooters. And I'm sure you've probably got that in your little surprise. You said you had a surprise here for me. A list of the firearms that you've currently got that are legal, like 223, 308, all the rest of it, and justifying why you need it. You've already put in for a PTA, you've already justified it in my view, but they're asking for further information there, like to re-justify it, because they're going to look at it with the view of taking more firearms off you. So guys, look, I won't waffle on about it much more because I've spoken till I'm blue in the face, but I will just say this again. I wrote that Last Australian Shooter video in 2016, and so many people just said, Aussie, you're so over the top. They're never coming for bold actions. Really? Never coming for bold actions, huh? How's that going in WA right now? So I'm not going to sit here and go, I told you so. But all I want in return is I want shooters to start getting involved and start listening and getting in the fight before it's too late. Because what happens is every time they pass these restrictions, they get more and more restrictions in. Like, you're going to run out of firearms to hand back. There's going to be nothing left. And you think they're going to stop at, just a single shot? No, they'll keep going. They will not stop, and they have proven that over time. So I guess I'm just pleading with people to get involved. You have to vote. You have to fight with your vote. You have to be involved. Drop some money to some, organisations that, support your views and are doing something. Like me personally, I'm a big supporter of Shooters Union, only because here in Queensland, I've seen exactly what they do and how much they put into it. So for me, to donate to the Shooters Union is my preference. So I'm not saying you have to do that as well, but I would strongly recommend that you do, and grow the voice that supports us. That's the way I look at it. So in saying that, Kate, what I'd like to do is get a little bit of a rundown now, if we can, and then we'll go to some questions because we don't want to make it too long, guys. Just a little bit of a rundown. I know you've got some stuff you wanted to show me that I don't know about there. You wanted to get my live reaction. So we'll have a look at that, and then a little bit of a rundown on your view, because people know my views on how to get involved and what to do, and I'm happy to repeat that. But I'd like to get your view on how to combat this in the future, how to make a decision on fighting this sort of thing. Okay?
Yeah, when I ran for the Senate, I had a lot of people ask how they could help, and Aussie's video really helped. And I said to people, do what you can. And for some people, that means sharing a Facebook post. For some people, that means just having a conversation or being brave enough to talk about what we do on the weekends. For other people, it is being more vocal, and it's getting out and handing out how to vote cards for those candidates who will stand up and support your sport. So there's different ways you can get involved. And the other thing is, once you find your place where you can be most effective, And I've been searching for that over the years. Where can I be most effective? And that's why I'm in Queensland, because I believe this is the last state. This is the free state of Australia. And I want to be here in the trenches defending what the organisations and the political parties like the Catters have achieved for this state. Because those laws from WA are coming. It's coming across as soon as they can. This place is run by Labor. They're all on the same page when it comes to guns. Liberal are just as bad, Nationals too. So put yourself in a position where you can educate those around you about what we do. Forget about the political stuff if you're not interested in that. What can you do? One of my mates, Zach from Australian Hunting Connection podcast, hi Zach, he takes in game meat that he cooks, that he goes out and hunts and takes that to work and just has a conversation. Yeah, I source this myself for my family. Cost of living crisis is getting pretty high. How good that I can cook this for my family. Self-sufficiency. That's one angle that I'm very supportive of too. So you don't have to be, traveling around the country like I am or doing reviews like Aussie. You don't have to do that. Just think what you can do to defend your sport in a positive way. And yes, writing letters to politicians is so important because they record how many people in the electorate have responded to them on a certain issue. That's what we've done in every office I've worked for. So those voices definitely count. In WA, it won't really make a difference, but when they're going to the election, they're going to look at these emails and say, there's a lot of shooters in it. There's a lot of WA politicians terrified because of people who've been emailing them that they're going to lose their seat. They're one-term wonders. So it does work. Just do whatever you can, however you can, even if you think it's small. Every little thing counts. And take a mate to a range. Take them out shooting. Don't give them the biggest gun to have a laugh and make them terrified. Yeah, exactly. Make it an enjoyable experience. I'd love to do Lady Liberty range days and get more women involved. That's one of the things that I want to do up here or wherever I go. Anything we can do. And, we're just two people and we do what we can and we have our ideas, but there are other people who have ideas. Have those conversations. Start your little groups. Just whatever you can to help. Whatever you can to help. And that's my mantra every day. That's what I say when people call me up from Shooters Union or Catters or Libertarian, whatever I can do to help. If you are going to help shooters, I will do what I can to support you. So that's my advice. Find your place.
Okay, we will have a look at that if you want to have a look through and go back to that. But in my part of this, guys, my view on how to get active and get involved. The first thing is that obviously you vote accordingly. Don't just go, okay, on the day, oh, it was such a nice person or a nice lady, representing LNP, handing me out a free sausage or, something like that. Like, think beyond that. Like, honestly, think about the impact that it makes to your life. Like everyone, to me, this is one thing that I talk about. Like when I was younger, as in a kid, like I remember my parents and stuff talking about, Labor, it's for the working man. That was the big thing, back like 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago with the Labor Party. It was very much for the working man. It's gone. Those days are gone. In my view, Labor is for the welfare man these days. That's what they're about. Free money, while any of us who contribute to society and work and pay taxes have to foot the bill. And we're seeing that both, in my view, federally and also state-wise here in Queensland at the moment, because look at the cost of living. Look at what everything's going up. And look how Labor spent like no tomorrow when they got power and then they get re-elected. It's just spend, spend, spend. Every election campaign, what is it? Free money for this and free money for that. And you just go, yeah, this is awesome. It's okay, like who's going to be paying for all this? And then you start seeing all the cuts coming, in the subsequent months and years after the election. And it just keeps going. Like it's like a merry-go-round. And I just see it as absolutely insane. And then usually people then vote Conservative, like, if you want to call them that nowadays, the LNP. And then usually they're the ones who budget better. So they'll save money. They'll do a lot of cuts and everything and cut different jobs and things like that. So everyone's like, oh, bugger them. And then they vote Labor again, who just goes spend, 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 and then runs up the bill again. And it's like this merry-go-round. And from a firearm point of view, people go, oh, you're very anti-Labor with firearms. Yeah, I am, because I've seen the bills that they've tried to get through here in Queensland. So I know that they're extremely anti-gun. But LNP, yeah, I mean, are they the lesser of two evils? Perhaps so. I mean, like you've got the LNP member here in Gympie. He's very pro-gun. I'm just trying to think of his name off the top of my head. You guys watching could, by all means, will comment. I've just gone blank on his name, but he crossed the floor and voted against the shotgun lever action reclassification. So it was him, the One Nation member, the Cataboys, all stood together on that. So, like you've got to support those people. And would I suggest voting for that LNP member again? 100% I would. If he's going to support the Cataboys and, the One Nation member and actually give us a voice, by all means, jump in and support that person. So I'm not blanket saying, anti-Labor, anti-LNP, but generally they will always vote with the party. But just use your heads, guys, and have a look on certain issues, especially gun issues, and see which members voted for what. Those records are available. And then you'll just get a real education. That friendly LNP politician that you met with that goes, oh, yeah, no, I understand. And, I used to shoot a 22 when I was younger. Yet you look at it and then they supported the lever action shotgun reclassification. So you've got to not be fooled and tricked. So, here in Queensland, it's different because we don't have an upper house. So you've got to really get a lot of votes in your electorate to be able to get in. And my advice is to vote away from the majors like we've done previously, but also get involved. Now, there's different parties that I've helped with handing out how to vote cards on election day. It makes a massive difference. And you'll be able to speak from this because you've run for politics. When you've got someone who comes up to you and says, hey, I'm putting my hand up, I'm available this Saturday on the election, I can man this booth at whatever town. I can do that. Whole morning, I'm yours until just after lunchtime. Most people get in and vote before lunch anyway, get it over and done with. That is so powerful and helps a candidate so much. You have no idea how grateful they are. And what have you done? You've given up 4 or 5 hours of your time. Like, that's it. For something that you love, like firearms. So that's what I suggest doing from a political point of view. Also speaking openly to family and friends. Every one of us have our inner circle of friends. Maybe we've got 4 or 5 really close friends, maybe 3, whatever. Even if you only got 1 really close friend, have a talk to them about it. Some of them may or may not be shooters, and just say, hey, well, mate, I'm voting for One Nation in my electorate, or I'm voting for Cata, or I'm voting for whoever it is that's more gun friendly than the majors. And then suggest and say, well, look, will you join me in it and everything? And they're like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. And then you start spreading the message. That's really important as well. Talk to your family, your friends, and see if they're on the same page with you. From there, very, very important from I guess, a community side of things, like Kate was saying. So for me, well over 100 people I've helped get their firearm license and organised that. Spent time with them, talking about firearms, their first purchase, all that sort of thing. Like you were saying, walking into a gun shop is, can be quite intimidating, especially even if you're a guy and you don't know what you're looking for or talking to. It's intimidating. I get that. Help people out. Get more people to the range. I know some people who have even got their local politicians to the range, even though it hasn't turned them pro-gun as such. They're neutral on it in the sense of they're no longer anti-gun. They're like, okay, this isn't for me, but I understand your passion for it and everything. So next time there's an anti-gun bill that comes through, they're a little bit more understanding about it. So that's really important as well. Do that. Then what I would suggest doing is donating, like I said, to your club or organisations that actually do something for us. I know I keep promoting them, but the Shooters Union, and I swear to God, guys, I get nothing back for it, not a cent. If anything, when I came up, it was the stupidest thing I ever did. So not a lot of people know this, but it was so stupid. I actually, it was about 10 years ago, around there, and I ended up buying, at the time, a life membership for the Shooters Union. So I paid full price. There was no discount. And then it was like about a couple of weeks later, I came up with the idea of, hey, how about we run a promotion through my channel? And I approached Shooters Union about it, and I got them to do a $379 life membership. once again, I got nothing for it, and there was hundreds of people jumped on it because it was virtually half price. And then I sat there and I looked and I thought to myself, you weren't very smart about this, were you? Like I just paid, I just paid full price like a few weeks ago, and here I am running a promotion for everyone else. You know, I'm the only person that's not getting something for it. But look, I didn't care. At the end of the day, I was happy for Shooters Union to have my extra money because, you know, they actually do something. I have seen what they do when they go and they meet with weapons licensing. They're involved with the Dealers Association here in Queensland. There is so much they do. They do a lot with Ag Force. There's a lot of promotion in the Agricultural Country Life newspaper. There is a lot of promotion. Another thing that I've done personally too, guys, my local vet surgeon, no benefit to myself. I've helped him get his Cat H license for veterinary work. A lot of vets are unaware that that option is available to them, especially here in Queensland. So, you know, if you go to your local vet and you've got a bit of rapport with them and that and say, oh, like, you know, do you have a handgun? And then promote them, get them in touch with your local trainer, do their Cat H safety course and get them on that. Like, because, you know, my local vet's like over the moon about it because, you know, you can't, you know, pay, or it costs a hell of a lot of money for the green juice, so to speak, to put down a large animal where, you know, if you've got a pistol as a vet surgeon and you can go off and make a very ethical euthanasia. You know, so it's a lot cheaper for them. And plus you want, remember I keep saying over the years, guys, with exposure comes normality. More people see vet surgeons carrying handguns and using them on jobs and everything. It's normalized. It's so important to do that. So that's another thing to do. Jump on that. It's really important. If any vets out there need help with getting a Cat H license, where to start and that, message me. I will help you. Okay, I'm busy. I'm ridiculously time poor, as Kate has experienced since she's been here with me. But I will do my absolute best to help you. Okay, so that's another thing that I do. And then on top of that, just generally openly talk to people about shooting, like you were talking about, you know, taking in like game meat to work and, you know, talking about how you harvest it and all that kind of thing. If someone shows an interest in that, and there's a lot of shows from Alone to different survival stuff nowadays, it may not be necessarily firearm oriented, but it's around that idea of, you know, you can use firearms obviously to be in a similar situation where you're getting food and you're in an emergency situation or survival thing. You know, it's obviously a lot of fun to watch on TV, but, you know, you talk to people about that. And a lot of people, you just say to them, have you ever had venison backstraps? And they go, oh, no, trust me, let me cook that for you and your partner one night and, you know, have them over for dinner. Get the conversation going, guys. There's so much we can do that you may seem as so little, but it means so much. So you can do a lot there. So they're the things that I would do, because I am asked every single week, especially from gun owners in WA, Aussie, what do we do? And it's like, guys, the horse is bolted over there now. There's another election, and that's where you've got to start doing and affecting change from there. So do that. Get involved with the organisations that support us. Drop the money, you know, to them. It doesn't have to be much. You might be only able to afford $10 a month, but like if all of us shooters did that, they'd actually have the money to be then getting billboards like they did here in Queensland. Shooters Union did that with the last election. In northern Queensland and some key seats there. It was the Flickham campaign, you know, to vote away from the majors and everything, and substantial money was spent on that. Well, that doesn't come out of thin air. Like, we need to help with that, guys, because unfortunately we don't have these people with millions and millions of dollars backing us. We've got to support the people who support us. So that's all I'll say about the politics tonight, guys. We'll go through some questions shortly. However, I'll hand back over to Kate to talk about some of the paperwork. She wanted to get my responses live on air about this.
Do you mind grabbing me a beer? I need another Northern. Just in a few things in response to what Aussie's just said. Culture predates politics. So we need to make the cultural change. Do we want to see in Australia, where we the people don't have the skills of marksmanship, where we don't have the skills to go out hunting if we need to, where we don't have an Olympic team of shooters winning gold for us? Do we want to be a nation reliant on the state, where we don't have our own homes, we will own nothing and be happy? I don't want Australia to be like that. And that's why you need to think about sharing our culture. I know we are a close-knit private community. I grew up like that with my dad. Like, don't tell your schoolmates what you were doing on the weekend, because it is a private thing, and you know not everyone agrees with what you do because they don't understand. But conversation and starting conversation is how you change people's minds. That's why I'm a firm believer in freedom of expression and free speech, as long as you're not calling or inciting violence. So that's my response to the political side. It's not just politics, and in fact, that's why I'm kind of out of the political scene. I'm not involved in it first anymore. I'm more trying to change culture, because that is where we're going to see the biggest change. Politics will catch up when we change the culture to be what we want it to be. The other thing, giving a huge shout out to Shooters Union, I did mention it before, that they were the ones who, when the doxing occurred in WA on the front page of the West Australian, they were the ones that threw money at lawyers to investigate if the state government had broken any privacy acts. They were the one. It doesn't matter if you're based over east. It doesn't matter. They were the ones who put their money where their mouth was and investigated it. Labor, being smart as they are, we don't have a Privacy Act in Western Australia. We are the only state that doesn't have privacy legislation, and the federal legislation, they didn't break any of those laws. So they're very smart, very evil. So they got away with it. But Shooters Union were the ones that investigated it, and they're still looking at it now to see if we can get them on anything, because that's our private information that the state abused, which threatened community safety. So how they're still in that parliament, I don't know. It's probably a good thing I'm not there. I was born on the 5th of November. If anyone knows what that reference is, I'll just leave it there. Moving on, I just wanted to get Aussies Live react to the mental health and medical form that has been brought in by Western Australia state government as part of the licensing process. If you would like me to read out some of the questions that they'll ask you, and you can tell me if you think this is fair and any of their fucking business. Thank you. So it's getting a little bit windy on the hill. Thank you, sir. So this is a document that's come out. It's been tabled in the state parliament recently, and it will be what you have to fill out as part of the licensing process. So question, are you being treated by a doctor for any illness or injury or medical condition which may affect your ability to safely use a firearm? Are you receiving any medical treatment or taking any medication, either prescribed or otherwise, that might affect your ability to safely use a firearm? They're the first two questions. Questions, medical history, heart disease or disorders, including but not limited to high blood pressure, chest pain, irregular heartbeat. Any physical injuries or disorders, including head injury, injuries to the limbs or joints, arthritis. Nervous system disorders such as but not limited to seizures, fits, convulsion, epilepsy, blackouts, fainting, dizziness, vertigo, problems with balance. Diabetes. Double vision, difficult seeing, hearing loss, deafness, which if we had suppressors, maybe a lot of us would have better hearing, but that's another conversation. Do you wear a hearing aid? Have you had eye or ear surgery in the past 5 years? Have you ever been diagnosed with a mental health, psychiatric or nervous disorder? Have you ever had or been told by a doctor that you had a sleep disorder? Have you ever had any other serious injury, illness or operation in the past other than listed above? And then it goes on to ask, how many drinks do you consume per day? Do you use illicit drugs or recreational? Do you use any drugs or medication not prescribed by your doctor? This is what every person in Western Australia who wants a license will have to answer. They do have the power, the police will have the power to check with your doctor if any of this is true and seek more information. Another note on the Western Australia Police, and this is known in WA, they have had a heavy hand in writing the new laws. We are now seeing the regulators and enforcers of the laws ghostwriting laws that they want to enforce. Police are meant to serve the people in the community, not write the laws in which they want to enforce. So What do you think of that, Ozzy? What's your reaction to those questions?
Okay. I can see some valid points in the sense of, and I'm sure any other shooter would share a similar view. We don't want criminals and dangerous mentally ill persons to be able to easily access firearms, because obviously they can easily access it illegally if they choose to. That's a problem. Obviously, that's another note. But so I can see where they're coming from for that. But my view is when they blanket cover it and talk about a mental or nervous disorder, so in other words, like anxiety, right? So some person may have a little bit of anxiety. Does that mean they're suddenly a mass killer in waiting? No, they're not. Far from it. I'm not a doctor, look, so I can't, I can't be the be all and end all on that. But that's just my view on it. I look at it and I think to myself, we had here in Queensland recently, which I'm not sure if you saw on my channel, it's only within the last couple of years. We had Shooters Union reach out to a widow whose husband had committed suicide. He was a shooter. As things were getting bad, he refused to reach out for help. He wasn't a danger to anyone but himself in the end. And the reason that he didn't reach out, he kept saying to his wife that because he's a shooter, he'll lose his guns. And he didn't reach out. So, I look at that and I did a video on it, and there's terrible, terrible circumstances with it. What's the solution with it? My argument with all this mental health stuff, I mean, you look at any other government area, and when they talk about mental health, it's about apathy, understanding, come out and talk about mental health. Don't discriminate. Oh, but unless you've got a firearms license, it's completely against what the government belief is on mental health, what they promote in mental health circles. So that's why I'm surprised no one's really challenged them on this and gone, well, hang on, your own government is saying that, you're not dangerous. You shouldn't discriminate against them. They're not going to hurt people. So once again, that comes down to my view on that is it should be, have you ever been diagnosed with a, what would be the wording? Perhaps dangerous mental health condition. Like, in other words, you're dangerous to yourself and others.
Which causes you to be violent?
Exactly, violent. That was what I was looking for. Sorry, that was the word I was looking for. A mental health condition that would cause you to be violent. Because then so many health practitioners, whether they're psychologists or psychiatrists, look, they're more versed at this than I am. This isn't my field. But they will talk about different mental health, and they will talk about various different levels of depression, anxiety. It's not just a blanket cover. You've got anxiety. It's the one shoe fits all. It's not that, from what I've been told when I've spoken with people in those circles. And, if someone's, for example, got a mental health condition of, say, perhaps some anxiety, it's just starting. Well, if they felt like they were nurtured by people in the firearms registry and understood, well, they could feel confident in reaching out for some help without being discriminated against, or the fear of losing perhaps their one outlet that may lower their anxiety or their depression because they're out exercising and walking up hills, going hunting and all the rest of it. So I see that as here in Queensland. I believe personally, my view on that is that's bad. A lot of that blame should be put on weapons licensing, in my view. To have someone that fearful to go and get help, which at that time the problem may have manifested to just a minute amount before it had manifested into something greater, where he unfortunately took his life. So why not get the fire extinguisher out, so to speak, put out the problem when it's in those early stages before it manifests into something greater, where the poor person's in a position where they believe they're beyond help and they end up taking their own life. That to me is it's terrible circumstances, absolutely terrible. So in where I'm going with this in response to that, I could see and understand if it was a mental health condition that you'd been diagnosed with, where you were making threats to kill people all the time, and that, like, yeah, hey, I admit it. Like, I don't want someone like that with a firearm. I don't. I don't want to see innocent people shot and hurt and all the rest of it. And I don't think that any reasonable shooter out there would want the same either. But it's the way they word that, and it's so inclusive of everything. And then once again, who plays God? Who's the decision maker? And my view is police aren't, unless they're qualified previously as a psychologist or psychiatrist. They're not in a position to make that decision, and nor should they be, in my view. It should be coming back on the health practitioner. But then the problem with that, guys, I see another twofold problem, is health practitioners will be going, liability's lying with me here. Excuse me. I'm not really comfortable with signing off on a person because I've only known them the last 6 months. I haven't treated them since they were, 10 years of age or something like that. I can see problems with that. To go a step further and talk about, and I mentioned this on our last live when we did that with Graham Park, the part where Western Australia, and they're looking at it in other states, are talking about the views, the attitudes, the opinions. I have perhaps a varied view on that, and one that I feel is probably a little bit more positive rather than looking at it as doom and gloom. Guys, if the authorities are looking at that, think about it in this way, right? Say, for example, it's concealed carry that a lot of shooters talk about. They will say, oh, I believe that we should have concealed carry. There's a difference in saying, I believe we should have concealed carry, or anyone who attacks me is going to get cut in half with a shotgun or a pistol or whatever like that. So when I look at that, so if you're commenting online and you're saying anyone who breaks into my home, they're dead, right? I believe that the authorities could and would use that against you. However, if you're simply expressing a view of, I just believe there should be a castle doctrine, for example, take away firearms from it, just a castle doctrine in general. Or I believe that we should have concealed carry here. If you are then a victim, I guess, and I use that word, of this new policy, where they went, no, your attitude is not in line with what we believe, and we're going to take your firearms license off you. Me personally, I'd reject that straight away, and I'd elect for a court hearing, and I'd explain in that court hearing and say, well, how do we get any laws changed here in Australia? Like, for example, there might be Smith Road. I'm just making that up, right? Smith Road might be 60 kilometres an hour. And you think to yourself, and various different politicians and, transport agencies, no, that should be 50 kilometres an hour, or that should be 70 kilometres an hour, or 80 kilometres an hour. Okay, so that's someone's view. They're not suggesting they're going to break the law. Just like if I say, I believe I should, have concealed carry here as a licensed shooter. It doesn't mean I'm going to go to my safe and grab a handgun and then go out and conceal carry. It doesn't mean that at all. It's just simply my view. And there's no way, I believe, in this country that any magistrate would view that as a problem. If you're simply exercising a view, you haven't threatened anyone, so you haven't gone, oh yeah, because I'd kill anyone who came near me. You're not saying any of that. You're simply saying that I believe that should be a view, because then you may perhaps take that to your local member and say, I'd actually like you to consider this, like they do with many other laws, just like the example I gave about the speeding. Increasing the speed limit. So how do people come up with ideas on law changes if they can't even express a view or an opinion on a law? So think about it from that point of view, guys. I hope you're really taking in what I'm saying here. By all means, be proud and say, yeah, I would like to see, concealed carry here if that's what you want. Or I believe that you should be able to use an AR-15 for hunting here. At no stage have you said you're going to go and do that and break the law. You're simply saying that that's my view on it, and I would like to see that change. So whether you just have that view and remain with that view and you don't take any proactive step to get the changes legislatively by seeing a local member and bringing it up and saying, hey, will you bring this up in Parliament and let's get some changes happening and vote on it, blah, blah, blah. That's your choice, guys. you still are a free person here in Australia, although that can be to debate. And I know
another issue.
I know Kate's got some different views on that, but my view on that is from looking at it legally. I feel very strongly about that, and I won't change my views on believing that I would like to see people being able to use firearms in different circumstances that aren't currently a genuine reason. Once again, not saying I'm going to go and do it. That's my view. I believe that it should be legal so that people could then legally do certain things that aren't currently within the guidelines of the genuine reasons. So I really hope that that makes sense there, guys. It was a bit of a extended, I guess, explanation, but I just wanted people to understand my view on that. So with all those questions, half of them need to go as far as I'm concerned.
At least.
And it needs to be just very specific back to the objective of what the Firearms or the Weapons Act here in Queensland, it's Weapons Act, is about. And if you look at the Weapons Act, have a look at the first couple of sections, and it talks about the objective of the Act. And this is what you can always use in arguments. It's about public safety, right? That's the big thing. And they have a thing in there, restricting semi-automatics only under certain circumstances, right? So you can use that and say, well, okay, the objective is public safety here. So why are all these other questions that don't relate to public safety even in there? So that's my view on it. A lot of it should be just gone. It should be just strictly a couple of questions that pertains directly to public safety. In other words, are you a dangerous criminal? Are you dangerously mentally ill? Because if so, we don't want to make your access to firearms available through any legal means whatsoever.
Thanks for that. I'll just add my 2 cents if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the mental health stuff specifically, this kind of thing will deter people from getting help. What about people with post-traumatic stress disorder, like our veterans, for example? Are they going to be disarmed again because they've been suffering and now they're not eligible to have a license? Women with postnatal depression, taking away my gun, even though that was my outlet. This is what it could be used for. And yet they say they care about
people's... in Queensland. Postnatal depression has in Queensland.
Terrible. That would break my heart if they did that to me. Terrible. And who are they really protecting? Because we have a culture in our community of looking after each other. At the range, you always ask, how are you going? We look out for each other, and there are already community, voluntary association in place where if you have a problem, you can store your gun at the range. It doesn't need to be the state. The state is not the answer to every problem. People can be the answer in our own communities. The other thing on the views, attitudes, and opinions, who the fuck are the state to say to be the ones who decides what's the right attitude, view, or opinion? They want to be the arbiters of the truth or what you're allowed to say or express. This is a free country last I checked. This is what our Anzacs died for. Don't come in here and say you can't have a license because your view or your meme is not acceptable or it's a little bit spicy. No, we still have a right to freedom of expression and free speech. Go away. That's got nothing to do with me owning a gun or not. No. So a lot of those questions, the heart question, a lot of diabetes, a lot of older men, and my dad has that. So what, they're going to take it off him now, someone who's been shooting for 50 years because he's ticked yes on some bullshit form? I'm sorry, they're just trying to use everything they can to deter people from applying, because that's a lot of information. That's a lot of highly sensitive information you have to hand over to the police, who will then be able to police your health, which they're not qualified for. That's not their job. And it's also the police and the government trying to hand over who they can point the blame at when something goes wrong with the shooter. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to cover their own asses and put it onto the medical establishment instead of actually looking at it and say, how can we make this safer? They don't care about safer. They just care about control. That's my opinion on it. Sorry to be the negative one in the conversation, but that's where I'm at. Now, I think we've got some questions, so I'll just have a look. Ozzy, if there's anything you want to say, well, I just pull up some questions.
Yep. So, guys, if you've got some questions and that, we'll scan through. I can't see it on my phone because I'm the owner of my account, but I can't, because I'm not the viewer. I don't get notifications about live, and I can't bring it up under my live. It's not there. So we're just going to have to go off Kate's phone here, and we'll try to get to a few questions. I know there'll be a lot of gun questions and stuff like that, and talking about new reviews. Speaking of that too, guys, what is it, 2 days' time. I've already filmed. I've got it ready to release. There's a new low light that's come out that I've reviewed. Actually, quite handy, so that'll be out. I'm looking at the new Daniel Defense bolt action rifle. I've also looking at getting a hold of. I've organised it. It's just going to take a little bit of time. One of the new Benelli Lupos, the long range, set up with a Burris Eliminator 6 on it. Having a look at that as well. I've got a couple of little things that are in the on the list, so to speak, put it that way. So I'm trying to get to it, guys, and I'm getting back to doing a few more reviews now because thank God the rain is easing up a little bit here on the farm. It's just been ridiculous. I have never seen as much rain as we've had here in the time that I've been here. So it really does stuff my routine up. And, I mean, if it's flooded out and everything like that, there's not much I can do. And a lot of the time it takes weeks for that to dry out. So, guys, please be patient there. It's not like I'm not doing reviews anymore. I certainly am. And I've got a lot of equipment to get through. And I'm just trying to be able to do that. So, have we got any interesting...
Lots over here. If you want to have a look at some of the comments, the people want you to have a vape. I've already offered. I'm a generous person who doesn't want to...
So, all right, so we'll start with that. Let's start with that. Something fun now. Let's lighten the mood here a bit. We're going to lighten the mood, let's lighten the mood. Like, guys, this is something that not many people know about me. So I've never tried a cigarette in my life. I've never tried coffee. I've certainly I've never tried a vape. I've never been interested in any drugs. The only drugs that I've ever had is when I was in that coma. So that's another story. And that was given to me by a doctor. So apart from that, guys, like I'm kind of a goody two shoes. The only vice I have, I guess, is I like to drink socially. So if I've got company, I'll have a few beers and stuff like that. So yeah, sorry, there's none in Buckley's chance of me vaping or lighting a cigarette or anything like that. I'm devoid of on the right side, because they took the middle lobe of my lung. So I I value all my breathing capabilities, put it that way. So this is where we're going to differ vastly, but I value my lungs, so I won't put any of that crap into it.
My body, my choice is my response to that. Someone has asked, Kate, aside from your valuable contribution to our fight here, this is Brent here, what enjoyable part of shooting are you looking forward to doing here? Well, I'm actually heading up to Townsville next week, and I've already had contact with some shooters up there who are going to take me out, and I need to get some things sorted, but I'm excited to be traveling around, going to as many shooting ranges as possible. Anyone who wants to invite me to anything, please let me know, because I'm here now. I'm here. And obviously doing some shooting with Aussie, because we've never gone shooting together. I think we need to rectify that.
Yeah, we do. We have to organise something, maybe like a range day or something like that. Yeah, we can definitely do something like that down the track. And about that too, guys, I've had a few of you guys asking me, when's there going to be another Aussie Reviews range day, because there's plenty of like giveaway certificates and all that sort of stuff. That's something else I've got to look at doing too. There's so much stuff to do. Now that I've got a little helper, maybe we can get something organised. Anything more?
So Tim Molesworth, good lad from Victoria. Hi, Tim. In your opinions, why is it that shooters don't vote to support their sport? I'll let you go first.
Okay. I think one of the big reasons is historically, as I said, we come from a staunch Labor family. Dad voted Labor. Grandparents voted Labor because it was for the working man, which is just couldn't be further from the truth. People are also of the illusion, and I call it illusion because that's my view on it, that they have to vote Labor because they're in the union at work and it supports their pay and conditions. Okay, so let's look at it this way, right? I have my own view on unions, so I won't dive into that. That's a complete different topic. But say, for example, that union gets you $2 an hour more, or maybe, I don't know, round it up to maybe say like $50, $100, $200 more a fortnight, when you pay. Thank you, good on your union, right? But if you voted Labor, and let's look at currently, so this isn't just me making it up. Let's look currently at the inflation prices with the cost of living, how much we're paying for fuel, how much we're paying for food, electricity, water, just everything. Food, everything's gone through the roof, right? And people say, oh, the politicians, well, how do they really control? They do. There's a lot of influence. These people influence and control every part of your life, to what you pay for certain items, to what dog you can own, to what firearms you can own, to what car you can drive, how that car is, like whether it can be raised, what motor, like lifted, what motor's in it. They control everything, even down to the color of the lights you can have on that vehicle is controlled by the government. Whether you can light a fire on your private property, whether you can build a shed, whether you can do anything like that. So anyone who thinks that the government doesn't control cost of living and all the rest of it, well, who does? Do you think this has just magically appeared from somewhere, other than something that the government has done? So let's be very clear on that, guys. So my view on it is, if you're getting, by voting Labor, and you're getting your pay rise of, say $100 a fortnight, let's use that as an example, right? But then all your costs of living and everything like that's gone up by about $300 a fortnight. But you've voted Labor, so you've secured your pay increase, but the cost of living has gone through the roof, far exceeding that pay increase. What have you achieved? What have you achieved? Absolutely nothing, in my view. So my argument is, and as Kate was saying, like over in WA, do you like, if the Labor Party over there won't listen to you on guns, if you go to them with another concern that you've got, do you think they're going to listen to you? If they hold virtually all the seats, and they don't need opposition to pass any of the bills, all the rest of it, do you think they're going to really give two hoots about what you are having problems with? Do you think they're really going to listen? A lot of people in a lot of regional areas especially have loved independent candidates and politicians who actually get in, who are independents. Here in Queensland, I can think of one in particular that served for many years in central Queensland, who was an independent and absolutely loved. So this is where I'm going with this, guys, is vote away from the majors, because it doesn't secure your pay increase, because you're going to be paying through the nose anyway with the policies and the way they blow money. If you vote for like some of the minor parties, do you think that they're going to actually ignore you? Let's look at the Katter Party, right? I've got a lot of respect for a lot of the Katter boys because they're straight shooters. Bob Katter, for example, as much as what people may say about him, negative, positive, whatever, look at how long that guy has been a politician and the size of his electorate and how he is loved and re-elected. Why? Why is that? Is it because he sits on his backside and does nothing for his electorate? No, because people go and talk to him and he listens and he takes the fight to Canberra for him. So this is where I'm going with it, guys. Like, if you vote in, say you support like a local One Nation or Katter Party, or it might be an independent, right? And they get elected. Do you really think that they're going to turn around and ignore you when you go to them about the issues? That's why they're minor parties, because they actually give two hoots about you and your family. So this is where I'm going with it. I don't understand why shooters out there will still vote like for Labor or LNP. But however, in saying that, I understand there are electorates, especially here in southeast Queensland in the city, and one of my really good friends said to me, he's like, bro, who do I vote for? Like, he had Labor, Greens, and LNP, and I think Animal Justice Party or something like that. It was on his ballot card, and I said to him, speak to the individual ones. I mean, probably Greens would be pointless, Animal Justice pointless, but speak to Labor or LNP and see what that actual individual candidate's views are on firearms. Yeah, they could lie to you. They could lie to your face. Politicians do that if you haven't worked that out yet. But at least you will have an idea of the lesser of two evils to vote for, to put that number one in the box beside their name. So that would be my view in that regard.
We have a question from SJ, G'day team. Could you talk a little bit about how all the separate gun advocacy groups can get on the same page? That's the $1 million question. I'll let you go first, Ozzy.
Okay. Okay. There's a lot of infighting. Why? Money is the root of all evils, as you've probably heard the saying many times. A lot of organisations are out there falsifying stories to get memberships. I've seen that. I saw that very much so with one organisation down south who put out a post saying that Victoria Police were banning all pump-action rifles. It even got the SSAA involved. They were like, what the hell? Even VicPol were like, what the hell? And anyhow, that post was removed and that, but it was like, donate now, and it was like, wow, okay, unless I'm missing something here. I thought to myself, why would you do that? Like, credibility is everything. That absolutely is everything. So I look at different organisations that do that, or then they slag out other organisations and name them and all this sort of thing. And I think I saw this with the WA stuff, for example, right? So I saw on my page I had the Libertarian Party, or LDP as they were known, and they hammered the shooters, fishers, and farmers for their previous abandonment of shooters in their view, right? So I don't know the background on that, but I actually commented under that to the LDP guy, and I said, that's the wrong approach. The approach should be, at the future election, we're happy to work with other pro-gun parties. However, we would like you to consider voting for us. It makes, you see what I mean? The message that was delivered out of that and articulated that way. And to their credit, they actually took that on board and were like, hey, we're happy to work with Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party and stuff like that. And then people talk about, but that, some of them preference Labor and they do this and they do that. Hey, that's politics, guys. Like, these people have got to survive at certain times. It'll be cutthroat, and they will have to support the Labor Party or the LNP and that to stay in or have a chance of being in power. So this business of, I'd love it to be first person over the line wins and all the rest of it. That's not how the voting system works. So do you have a party who is staunch, arrogant, and going, okay, I'll just go staunch down the line. I'm not preferencing any of them, bugger them, and then they don't get elected. So what have we got? We're back to square one. We've got nothing. Or they can go, okay, we'll preference them on this, but when we get in, there's certain bills that we won't support, because obviously they have that choice as well. So how to get the organisations and everything working together, I think, is to stop the negativity. You can be critical of some things and go, okay, look, I don't agree with this, but it's how you articulate it. Everyone online knows that there's certain fools online that just try to go for the throat because they're sitting behind their keyboard when they wouldn't say that to your face in public. There's no way. So instead of all the negativity, actually put it back on yourself and go, okay, what can I do to help the positivity in this situation? And that's what I did through just simple re-articulation of what I believe the message should be, which actually changed their complete outlook. So that's how I look at it. Take any negatives and make it a positive, and you will get them working together. And if you don't, so be it. Just support the ones that are supporting you and getting out there and doing what they can for you.
I would respond in saying, figure out what your organisation is doing to really represent you and your interests and your sport and your culture. Ask them. Ask them to have an open meeting. Ask for the minutes of the last meeting of whatever organisation you're a member of. yes, it's good that they're directing you to email your local member and all of that, but what are they doing? What deals have been done on behalf of the organisation that you might not know about? Ask the question. You pay membership money. We don't receive any money for this. It's Sunday night. There are 1,000 other things we could be doing. I want venison for dinner, but he hasn't got a deer in the freezer. See? Ask them what they're doing. You pay your membership for a reason. And I've just used SSAA as an example because I worked for them. Their motto, mantra, mission statement is to protect and promote the shooting sports. What are they doing to protect and promote the shooting sports? I'm not talking about the amazing ranges or facilities they have. I'm not talking about the amazing Australian Shooter magazine that I wrote for years. I'm so proud of. What an amazing magazine. That's history. I'm saying, what are the organizations and the people in leadership positions, what are they doing for you to protect your sport and promote it? Ask the question. Ask for the minutes. You're entitled to that. You pay your membership. Let us see what you're doing. Be transparent. Be transparent so we're all on the same page. We all know what's going on. We don't need to hear rumors about, oh, they've done this or someone, this organization sold this organization out. Like, divide and conquer. That's what Labor love, and that's what they've done successfully, very successfully in WA, pitting the farmers against the shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Don't buy into it. We need to be united. We've heard that 1,000 times. Well, you're the leaders of the organisations. What are you doing to be united at your level? Lead by example. And that's not a criticism. I know there's personalities, there's history. We're all passionate. We all have our own view. We all have different views. But you were paying membership money for a reason. So let's see what happens, because protecting and promoting our sport, I don't know, the results don't seem to show that that's the case. And I know that might seem harsh, but I have given a lot of my life for this sport and this cause. I've worked for SSAA, etc., etc. So I'm very passionate about making sure our leaders are leading and fighting for us till their dying breath. On that note, we're going over an hour and a half now. I think it's time for dinner. I'm getting hungry. I'm off to work in Queensland, in Brisbane tomorrow. I'm so excited to be here in the trenches on the ground. I will do everything I can for shooters in this state. I will bring an army with me, just a metaphorical army, back to WA to help in March next year. So excited to be here. I'm so excited to finally be here with Aussie. We've known each other for years, but we've never been able to actually spend time together. We've been too busy trying to save the world. We're here, we're united, we are ready to go. We're going to have some amazing times together here, Aussie. I'm excited. I cannot wait. And thank you again for your hospitality, your Southern Queensland hospitality. I've been treated like a queen while I've been here so far. So we'll see Graham Park, see how you treat me, and we'll see how we go. But anything else you wanted to add before we go?
Graham Park will definitely not spend on dinner what I did last night. So, yeah, guys, just for your info, we went out to a really nice restaurant, had a good catch-up, a couple of drinks, and it was really good. It was long overdue, and had some really nice, game meat. We ate quail. It was really good. There was, it was some really unique dishes and everything like that, which was great. I like eating outside the square, so to speak, and trying those more not so common meats, So, that's all I'll add is, look, great to get you here. I'm glad that our work behind the scenes has started to come to fruition now that you're actually here. Guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching the live stream. I hope you like it. Please comment and keep those comments going. If you've got ideas, guys, we're all in the community together. If you've got ideas on how to make things better and everything, by all means, throw it out there. Try not to be so negative. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and that's something that I've even tried to, push on to Kate a bit as well, is, we can get so bogged down in our fighting that you get this negativity because unfortunately you're only reading and seeing so much negativity. Pick up a firearm, go and have a shoot. That's so important. Take youngsters out to a range, teach them about firearm safety, get into it, actually do something and get that positivity going because, honestly, when you see the excitement from young people when they get into the sport and you've shown them how to shoot on a 22, it was a really good point what Kate made about don't put them behind a 308 or something like that and then laugh about it, because you just destroy them for life. Get them into it comfortably, safely, and just expand our community, expand our membership. Just get out there and get into it, guys. I am no one special. You cut me, I bleed. You shoot me, I die. Like, I'm not bulletproof. I'm no one special, although I have pretty much had 9 lives now with different things. But but in general, guys, get out there, help us. Help us get out there as well. Like, get out there and do it. Get involved. I will say this. Fellow that follows the channel in closing, Stuart, he's got right into the political side of things, and he's going out to different hunting events and things like that, and talking about politics and promoting pro-gun parties and things. And this is a guy he's just a nobody as well in that regard. Like, he's not a politician or anything like that. And the feedback and the positivity, and it's getting better and better. So guys, I can't try to get behind you enough to get out there and do it. It's so rewarding, and you will go, wow, I'm actually contributing something to my community. So join us. That's what I'm saying. Join us. Get behind people who support us. Get out there and just make sure that our future generations have shooting as an option to enjoy, that it's not something that was ended 20 or 30 or 50 or 70, 100, 20, years ago. Get out there and get into it. So, guys, we'll leave the live feed at that. Thank you very much for watching. And once again, we'll catch you on the next review.